So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths Past Paper, Practice Paper Set 3, Paper 1, which is a non-calculus paper on the higher tier. Now again, if you want access to this paper before watching through this video, all you need to do is just simply click on the link in the description. Now a little reminder before we get started that if you're wanting to know which topic refers to which questions on this particular practice paper, all you need to do is just check out the question breakdown, which can be found in the description below. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 reads, what is the area in square centimetres of a semicircle with radius of 6 centimetres? Well, for the formula of the area of a circle, that's going to be pi r squared. And because it's a semicircle, we need to divide that by 2. Now here all we're doing is replacing r with 6. So that's going to give me 36, or 6 squared, pi over 2. And if I simplify, 36 divided by 2 gives me 18 pi. So I want to circle the third option. Then for question 2, it says expand 3x squared multiplied by 2x minus 5. So again here, all I need to do is just multiply out the brackets. So 3 times 2 is 6, x squared times x is x cubed. And then 3 times 5, which is 15. And then I've got x squared, which is going to be our third option here. Then for question 3, it says circle the solution of 2x plus 8 is greater than 4. So here all I need to do here is just solve the equation. So if I just write it out again. So here we take away the 8. So it's 2x is greater than minus 4. And then we get rid of the 2 by dividing by 2. And so x is greater than minus 2, which is our second option. Moving on to question 4, it says circle the calculation that increases 50 by 20%. And so for this, for a decimal multiplier of increasing by 200%, we're going to multiply by 2. So the one that we need to circle is going to be our second option. Then for question 5, it says solve x over 3 minus 9 equals 12. So here we need to get rid of the 9 first. So here we've got x over 3 and we add 9, which is going to equal 21. And then we take the 3 over by multiplying by 3. So therefore gives me an x value of 63. Moving on to question 6, it says the air pressure in a tyre measures 7.2 bar. Air is leaking out at a rate of 0.2 bar per day. Assume that the air continues to leak at the same rate, and the question is asking after how many days will the pressure measure 4.8 bar. So for this, the first thing we need to do is take away 7.2 minus 4.8. Because what we need to do is how much air we're losing between the 2 days. And that gives me an answer of 2.4. Then from this, what I then need to do is then divide by 0.2. So I've got 2.4 divided by 0.2. And again, with this being non-calculator, let's just write this up. So if I multiply both numerator and denominator by 10, I get 24 over 2, which gives me an answer of 12. It then says, in fact, the rate of the air leaks out increases each day. How does this affect your answer in part A? Well, for this, it just basically means it's going to be less days. And something along those lines would be fine for, or the answer will be smaller. Something along those lines would be fine to get that 1 mark. Moving on to question 7, it says ABDE is a parallelogram. AB is equal to AC. Show that x equals 22. Now, there's several ways in which we could work with this question, so it really does depend on how you're getting there. So, and again, all we want to do is show that x equals 22. So from this, we can see we've got a triangle of ADE, so I can work out what angle this is here by doing 180 minus 65 minus 72, which gives me an answer of 43. So then from this, the other, as it's a parallelogram, opposite angles are equal. So this angle here is going to be the same as this angle here. So that's also going to be 65. It tells us that AB is equal to AC. So that is an isosceles triangle, which therefore means that this angle here is going to be 65. And then from this, I can then work out what this angle here is going to be by doing 180 minus 65 minus 65, which leaves me with an answer of 50. Then I can then work out what angle this is here by doing 180, because angles on a straight line add up to 180, and that gives me an answer of, let's say, 115. And what I also know is that when we have got a parallelogram, opposite angles are the same. So this is 65, this is 65. So to work out what this angle here is going to be, angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So if I do 360 minus 65 minus 65 all divided by 2 is going to give me an answer of, let's just quickly work that out. So 360 minus 130 is 230. 230 divided by 2 is 115. So this angle here is going to equal 115. So then I know that this angle here must add up to 115. So then if I then do x equals 115 minus 50 minus 43, it leaves me with an answer of 22. And again, you could get there a lot quicker. I'm just showing you how to ways of which you can work out any particular angle. Could also then work out what this angle here is by doing 115 minus 72 and then working out the angles in this triangle here. And again, you should get the answer of 22. So any method would be fine as long as you show you're working on the diagram what the answer of x is. Moving on to question 8, it says, here are the fourth and fifth term of a Fibonacci type sequence. Each term is the sum of the previous two terms. Show that the first term is 2. Well, to work out what this number here is going to be, what I need to do is basically do 43 minus 28, which gives me an answer of 15. Then to work out what this number here is going to be, well, I need to do 28 minus 15, which gives me an answer of 13. And then for the first term, what I need to do there is do 15 minus 13, which is 2. And there we go. Moving on to 8b, it says, here is the first and third term of a different Fibonacci sequence. Each term is the sum of the previous two terms. Work out an expression in terms of a and b of the fifth term. So what I'm wanting is this. Well, using the same technique as what we did in part A, we can see that this one here is going to be b minus a. And then to work out what this term here is going to be, I'm going to add these two terms together. So that's going to be 2b minus a. And then to work out what the fifth term is going to be, I'm going to add this term with this term. So here I'm going to end up with 3b minus a. Then moving on to question 9, it says Noah is attempting to work out the base of a different right angle triangles. Here is his method with the working for when y is 10 and x is 6. And the question is asking us to tick the correct statement. Now in terms of the options, it says the method will always give you the answer as a whole number. Second option is the method will sometimes give you an answer as a whole number. And then the third one is that the answer will never be a whole number. Now for this, what you need to do is use your knowledge of Pythagoras, and if you've had enough practice, which I'm sure you have, in terms of working this out. Now, as you're probably aware, that when you are working out the base or any length of a right angle triangle using Pythagoras, that your answer will sometimes be a whole number, but also most likely it's going to be a decimal number. So the one we need to tick is this one here. Now for this, all we need to now do is just give an example of where the base would be a decimal number. So if we just assume, so if you just go for if y was 20 and x was 3, then the base is going to be, the base squared I should say, it's going to be 20 squared minus 3 squared, not cubed. And then the base squared is going to equal 400 minus 9. So the base squared is going to equal 391. So the base is going to equal the square root of 391, which is not a whole number. So just an example there would be absolutely fine for those 3 marks. Then moving on to question 10, it says the diagram shows 3 routes A, B and C between 2 towns X and Y. The distance and average speed for each route is shown, and the question is asking us which of the 3 routes takes the longest time. Assuming that the average speed is given, you must show your working. So for this, what we need to do is we need to work out how long it takes for each of those roots, and the paper is reset. So let me just go back to the question. So if we just have it all on screen, and what I'll do is I'll do the working out on the side. So for this we need to work out the time of each root. So using the formula of time equals distance divided by speed. So for this we just need to make sure that looking at the units of speed that we've got we're using miles per hour, so we want to make sure our distance in miles and our time is in hours. So for root A, it's going to be the distance, which is 25, divided by the speed, which is 50. And here we're working with fractions, and what we want to do is we want to convert this into a decimal. So 25 over 50 is 0.5, so the answer for that then is 0.5 hours. Then for B, again using the same formula, we're using the distance, which is 20, divided by the speed, which is 30, which is 2 over 3, which is 0.6 recurring hours. And then for C, we've got 30 miles over 40 miles per hour, and that's going to equal 0.75. And so all we now need to do is just say which one is the longest. Well, it's going to be root C, so the answer is root C. Now moving on to B, it says John and Matt take the same time to travel from X to Y. John travels along route B at 10 miles per hour faster than the average speed. Matt travels along route C. Does Matt travel faster or slower than the average speed for route C, and also by how much? So for this, let's first of all look at John. And John's travelling with him going along route B, which is 20 miles. And he's going to be travelling at 10 miles an hour faster than the average speed. So the average speed was 30, so 10 miles per hour more is going to be 40 miles per hour. So here then, to work out the time that John's going to take, that's going to equal 20 over 40, which is half an hour. So then what we then need to do is now look at Matt. And Matt travels 30 miles. And we know that they both take the same speed, so take the same time, so that's going to be 0.5 hours. So then Matt's speed using distance, speed, time, so it's going to be distance divided by the time. So the distance is 30, the time is 0.5. I'm not going to use 30 minutes because, again, the units of the speed is miles per hour, so I need to use hours. And that gives me an answer of 60 miles per hour. So going back to the question's asking, does Matt travel faster or slower than the average speed for route C, and also by how much? Well, the average speed for route C is 40 miles per hour. Matt's traveling at 60, so it's going to be faster. And by 60 minus 40, which is 20 miles per hour. So we just need to write 20 here. So moving on to question 11, it says 2 ordinary fair dice are rolled, and the question is asking us to complete the tree diagram. So for this, all we need to do is just make sure each branch is equal to 1. So here if we've got 1/6, this is going to be 5/6, and we just repeat the process for the other blank spaces. Well, that's going to be 1/6, and this is going to be 5/6. And then for question 11b, it says circle the probability that both dice land on a 4. Well, if they both land on a 4, we're looking at 1/6 times 1/6, which is 1/36, which means I need to circle the fifth option. Then for question 11c, it says work out the probability that at least one of the dice does not land on a 4. So not land on a 4 is going to at least 1, so it's going to be this outcome here, this outcome here, and this outcome here. So there's a couple of ways in which you can do this. So you can either go for working out each of the ones and add them all together. So here we could have, well, along the first branch, that's 1/6 times 5/6 plus 5/6 times 1/6 plus 5/6 times 5/6. So this is going to give me 5/36 plus 5/36 plus 25/36, which gives me an answer of 35/36. So again, you can either do that, or alternately you could just do 1 minus what you don't want, which is 1/36, which gives me 35/36. Any of those methods would be fine for those 2 marks. Moving on to question 12, it says work out the value of a when x is -1. So all we need to do is just do some basic substitution to work out the value of a when x is -1. So for the first bracket, we're going to end up with -1 minus 4, which is -5. Multiplied that by -1 plus 3 is +2, and we divide that by -1 multiplied by -1 take away 1, which is -2. So multiplying them out, we get -10 over +2, which leaves me with an answer of -5. Then for 12b, it says when x is between 2 and 4, exclusive of those numbers, circle your answer. So for this, we need to circle that a is going to be negative because, and the reason for that is when x is 2, which is the smallest value it could be if I substitute 2 in, obviously it's going to be 2.000001. So here we end up with -2 times 5 over 2 times 1, which is -10 over 2, which is -5. So that's the smallest it can be, and when x is the biggest number it could be, which we'll just say is 4, we end up with 0 times 7 over 4 times 3, which is 0 over 12, which equals 0. So the answer a, when x is that, is going to be between -5 and 0, inclusive of those numbers, so therefore a must be negative. Moving on to question 13a, let's just zoom out a little bit so we can see it all on the screen. It says that AC is a diagonal of a kite ABCD. A is at the point of 1, 5 and C is at the point of 3, 1. The diagonals of the kite intersect at M and the midpoint of AC. AM is equal to BM and BM to MD is in the ratio of 1 to 2. Work out the possible coordinates of B and D. Now for this, we need to make sure it produces a kite, and we know that the distance from B to M, so M is the midpoint, which is here. So we know that the distance from B to M is going to be half the size of M to D. Now there's 2 possible answers you can give for this particular question. So either we can say that B1 is here and therefore B2, and if you look at the directions of this, that's going to be twice the size. Now the reason why I've drawn where M is here, because if we look at the distance from A to C, we can see that it's 4 down and 2 up. Now to do perpendicular, we flip it and we halve it. So here it's going to be 1 down and 2 to the left. So then if B is there, then D is going to be twice the length, which is going to be here. So our kite, which we don't need to draw, but I'm going to outline it so you can see it, is going to look something like this. So one possible answer is that B is at 0, 2 and D is at 6, 5. Now alternately, there is another solution we could have. So let me just get rid of this, and that is assuming that B is on the other side of the line of AC. So here we could say that B is going to be at 4, 4, which is here. So if we call this one B2, and we use different colour to avoid it getting confusing. So here we've got, here's M. So B is here, and therefore D2 is going to be over here. So one other possible answer we could have is that B is at 4, 4 and D is at -2, 1. And there we go. Moving on to question 13b, it says x to y is in the vector of 3, 2 on the square grid. Write down a vector that is the same size of x to y and perpendicular to x to y. So for this, what we need to do is basically draw, if I was to draw the line, so that's going to be there. So what I'm wanting is the column vector of this line here. Now the line could go there, or it could go in the opposite direction like so. So here, one possible answer we could have, so if I looked at x, the blue line, that's going to be -2 and 3 up. So that's one possible answer I could write. Or I could go for the red line, which is 2 to the right and 3 down. So any of those two would be fine, but obviously don't write both, just write one of them. Moving on to question 14, it says estimate the value of 19.4 squared plus 30 root 104. Now for this, what we need to do, let me just zoom in first, is we need to make sure that we're rounding to one significant figure. So as much as there may be temptations to go a little bit more accurate, we do need to make sure that we are rounding to one significant figure. So here, 19.4 rounded is going to be 20 squared. 30 is absolutely fine. And then with the square root number, we want to round up to the nearest square number, which is 100. And then working this out, 20 squared is 400 plus 30 multiplied by root 100, which is 10. So here we've got 400 plus 30 times 10, which is 300, giving me an estimated value of 700. Moving on to question 15, it says circle the expression that is equivalent to 2x squared plus 1 or divided by x, where x is not equal to 0. So for this, all we need to do is take, if I split the fraction into two separate parts and divide them both over x, then this x cancels with that x, and then we're left with that. So what we're left with is 2x plus 1 over x, which is our third option. Moving on to question 16, it says one of these is a sketch of y equals cos x. Which one is it? So for this, if I just zoom out so we can see all the graphs on there. So we're looking for cos x, and knowing your knowledge of the trig graphs, the answer is A. Moving on to question 17, it says Naz buys a fridge from a shop for £189. The cost of delivery is proportional to the distance from the shop. For 15 miles, it costs £9. Naz lives 24 miles from the shop. Is the total cost more than 200? So for this particular question, let's first tackle and find the cost and the general rates of things. So we know that the cost, which I'm just going to call C, is proportional to the distance. So then from this direct proportion, we can then replace the proportional symbol with equals k, and then we substitute the numbers in. So here I know when D equals 15, C equals 9. So substituting those numbers in, I get 9 equals 15k. So then k equals 9 over 15. So k equals, if I simplify that, dividing both numbers by 3, I get 3 over 5. So therefore the formula is going to be C equals 3/5 D. So with that formula, what I now need to do is then substitute D equals 24. So when D equals 24, I've got C equals 24 multiplied by 3/5. And then here we just need to work this out. So 24 times 3 gives me an answer of 72 divided by 5. And then what I then need to do is now convert this to see if the answer is more than 200. So for this, what we need to then do is because obviously what we need to do is work out the cost for delivery. So here, if I then do 5 divided by 72, I get 1, carry the 1, carry the 2 rather, and then that's going to be 4, carry the 2. And so the delivery cost is going to equal £14.40. So then the total cost is going to be the price of the fridge, which is £189, plus £14.40, which comes up to a total of £203.40. So is the total cost more than 200? The answer then is yes. Moving on to question 18, it says the graph of y equals 2x is shown. And it says by drawing the graph of y equals 3x squared minus 4 on the grid, work out an approximate solution to 3x squared minus 4 equals 2x. So if I just zoom out a little bit so we can see it all on the screen. So what I need to do here is I need to do a table of values for 3x squared minus 4. So if I just write 3x squared minus 4, and let's just set up my table of values so I can plot it. Now in terms of the values I'm going to use, I'm going to start from minus 2 because that's the smallest value on my graph. And I've got minus 1, 0, I'm going all the way up to 4. And then all it's the case of then doing is just substituting numbers in. So minus 2 squared is 4, times 3 is 12. So that's going to be 12 minus 4, which gives me an answer of 8. Then minus 1 squared is 1, times 3 is 3, take away 4 is minus 1. Then that's going to give me minus 4. Then that's going to be minus 1, 8, 23 and 44. Now all that's left for me to then do is plot these values. So at minus 2 it's at 8, which is here. Minus 1 is minus 1, which is there. At 0 it's at minus 4. At 1 it's at minus 1. At 2 it's at 8. And obviously then with 3 being 23 I can't plot that, so that's my graph here. So all that's left for me to then do is now join these points up with a smooth curve. Now obviously yours should be a lot more accurate than mine, but it does need to be a smooth continuous curve, but it definitely does need to be a U shape. Now where the answers are for this is where the graphs intersect, so it's going to be at this point here and at this point here. Now the possible answers that you can write is any answer between minus 0.75 to minus 0.95 for the first point, and your second answer needs to be somewhere between 1.45 to 1.65. So any of an answer between those two boundaries would be absolutely fine. And again, make sure you're reading off your graph that you have drawn. Moving on to question 19. Oh, we can zoom in a little bit. So let's, there we go. So it says work out the value of minus 2 to the power, oh sorry, root 2 to the power of 4. So this is going to be root 2 times root 2 times root 2 times root 2. This gives me root 4. This gives me root 4. And as we know, root 4 is 2. So it's 2 times 2, which gives me an answer of 4. Then for question 19b, it says expand and simplify. So we just need to recognize that this is a double bracket question. And then we just need to expand the brackets. So root 2 times root 2 is root 4, plus 3 root 2, plus 3 root 2, plus 9. This gives me 2. And so here I end up with an answer of 11 plus 6 root 2. Then for question 20, it says work out the value of 9 to the power of minus a half. So for this, again, recognizing the power of a half means square root. And a minus means that we just need to write the reciprocal. So this is actually going to equal 1 over root 9, which gives me a simplified answer of 1/3. Moving on to question 21, it says the diagram shows the triangle ABE and the rectangle BCDE. The area of ABE is equal to the area of BCDE. BC is 2 centimeters shorter than BE. Work out the length of BE. So first of all, let's just quickly highlight what it is we actually need to work out. So what I wanted to work out is what this length here is going to be. Now if I call that length X, we know that the height of that rectangle is 2 centimeters shorter. So if the base is X, the height of that rectangle is going to be x minus 2. Now, first things first, let's work out the area of the triangle. Now, for this, what I need to do is, because I don't know the perpendicular height, I need to know I need to use half AB sine C. So it's going to be a half times A, which is 10, times B, which is x, times sine of C, which is 30. Now, sine 30 is a half from the exact values of trig. So from this, what we've then got is a half times 10 times x times a half. And if I write these all as a fraction, what do we end up with? Well, we end up with 10x over 4, which leaves me with that as my answer. I can write that as 5x over 2. So that there is the area of the triangle. So it says that the area of the triangle is equal to the area of the rectangle. So to work out the area of the rectangle, now to work out the area of the rectangle, I just do the base times the height, so that's x over x minus 2. Now I know that this must equal 5x over 2. So this is what I now need to solve to try and find out what x is. So from this, if I expand the brackets, I get x squared minus 2x equals 5x over 2. Take the 2 over, and with 2x squared minus 2x equals 5x. Actually, that's going to be 4x. Let me just get rid of that. Equals 5x. And then from this, I can take the 5x over to the side to end up with 2x squared minus 9x equals 0. And then I can factorize it with regards to x. And this is what I now need to solve. So either x equals 0 or 2x minus 9 equals 0. So solving this, I get 2x equals 9, so x equals 9 over 2. So these are possible two answers. Well, x can't equal 0, otherwise because there won't be a distance. So the only answer it could be is going to be 9 over 2 or 4.5 centimetres. Now moving on to question 22, it says the histogram shows information about the time some students revised for a test. The first bar represents students who revised for less than 10 minutes, and the question is asking us to estimate the number of students who revised for less than 45 minutes. Now for this, what we need to do is we need to work out the frequency of each of the bars. Now we know that the frequency is equal to the area of the bar. Now I'm only interested in the times that are less than 45. So if I just draw a line from 45, and what I'm wanting is the area to the left of that dotted line of these here. So to work out the area of this first bar, well, that's going to have a, again, rectangle is just base times height, so that's going to be 10 times 0.8, which equals 8. This bar here is going to be 1.6 times 20, which gives me an answer of 32. This bar here is going to be 10 times 2.2, which is 22. And this little bar here is going to be 5 times 2, which is 10. So all I then need to do is add those numbers up. So less than 45 is going to equal 8 plus 20 plus 32 rather, plus 22 plus 10. And adding all those numbers up, I should end up with an answer of 72. Now moving on to question 23, it says work out the value of 5 over root 3 minus the root of 6 3/4. Give your answer in the form of k root 3. So for this, what we need to do first is basically write 6 3/4 as an improper fraction. So here we've got 5 over root 3 minus, and that's going to be 27 over 4, and that's all square rooted. Now from this, I notice that 4 is a square number, so I can rewrite this as 5 over root 3 minus root 27 over 2. Now from this, what you can then do is recognize that root 27 is root 9 times root 3, which is 3 root 3. So I can substitute that in there, in which I end up with 5 over root 3 minus, and it's going to be 3 root 3 over 2. Now from this, what I then need to do is write this as a single fraction, so I need to get a common denominator. So here my common denominator is going to be 2 root 3 minus over 2 root 3. So I've multiplied that first fraction by the other denominator, so that's going to be 5 times 2, which is 10. And then 3 root 3 times root 3 is going to be 3 times root 9, which is going to be 3 times 3, which is just 9. So then from this, I then end up with 1 over 2 root 3. And then from this, what I then want to do is rationalise the denominator, which leaves me with 2 root 3 over 2 times 2, which is 4. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. So that leaves me with 2 root 3 over 12, which then becomes 1 over 6 root 3. So here my k value is 1/6. Moving on to question 24, it says convert 0.28 recurring to a fraction. Give your answer in its simplest form. So for this, the first thing we want to do is make the decimal number equal to x. Let me just rewrite that again. Then if we multiply both sides by 10, I get that. And then we'll multiply again by 10, which gives me this. Now what we're wanting is the same digits after the decimal point. So here I'm going to be using these two lines here. So if I write 100x equals 28.8 recurring and 10x, which equals 2.8 recurring, I take the two things away, so I get 90x equals 26. So x is going to equal 26 over 90, which simplified gives me 13 over 45. Moving on to question 25, it says in the Venn diagram we've got the total number of students is 256. A represents the students who take art and G represents the students who take geography. For question A, it says one student is chosen at random. Work out the probability that the student takes art. So for this, we want art. So art is this yellow part here. So there are 25 plus 14, which is 39, out of a total of 295 students. Then for B, it says one student who takes geography is chosen at random. Work out the probability that the student also takes art. So here we're looking at geography only. So we're just looking for that pink section. So we've got a total population of 14 plus 29, which is 43. And out of those 43, how many take art? Well, that's going to be 14. So the answer then is 14 over 43. Then for 25C, it says in this Venn diagram, we've got again 295 students. H represents the students who take history. E represents the students who take English. And it says 1/2 of the students who take history also take English. The number who take English is twice the number of who take history. So for this, understanding what this means, well, we know that 1/2 of the students who take history also take English. So if this is x, then this is also going to be x. Now reading the next line, it then says the number of students who take English is twice the number of those who take history. Well, if history is 2x, then English is going to be double the size of that, which is going to be 4x. So if we've got x here, this bit here needs to be 3x. Now from this, what we can then do is we know that the total number of numbers in that Venn diagram has to add up to 295. So therefore what we've then got is x plus 3x plus 125 equals 295. So from this, if I simplify, I get 5x plus 125 equals 295. So 5x is going to equal 170. And then dividing by 5, I get an x value of 34. I don't know where I've write 36. And I get an x value of 34. Then moving on to question 26, it says A and B are points on a circle with the equation of x squared plus y squared equals 25. A is 3, 4, B is a point on the y-axis, and PA and PB are tangents. And for part A, it says show that the coordinates of B is 0, minus 5. So if I just zoom out so we can see that a little bit clearer on the screen. So from this, we know that the radius is going to be the square root of 25, so the radius is 5. And so from this, what we can then do is then, or if we there's a couple of ways in which you can do it. You say the radius is 5, it's on the y-axis, so therefore B must be 0 minus 5. You could also say that at B, x equals 0. So if I then substitute x equals 0 into this, so I end up with 0 squared plus y squared equals 25. So y squared equals 25. So y is going to equal plus or minus 5. Well, B is below the axis, so as B is below the x-axis, y must equal minus 5. So therefore B has a coordinate of 0, minus 5. Then for 26b, it says give a reason why PA equals PB. And this is using a circle theorem. So all we just need to write here is something along the lines of that tangents from an external point are equal in length. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine. Then moving on to the last question, it then says for part C, point P is the point AB, work out the values of A and B. So for this, what we need to do first is, if I go back to the diagram, let's write this as C. And what I need to do first is that I know that PB has an equation of y equals minus 5. So this equation here is y equals minus 5. Now at this point here is the intersection of the two lines. So what I need to do is then find the equation of A. Oh, up in there. AP. Now for this, what we need to then do is, well, I know that a radius and a tangent meet at 90 degrees. So if I draw a triangle from O to A, that this length here is 3 and that is 4. So the gradient of this line here is going to be 4 over 3. So therefore, the gradient of this line, which is perpendicular, is going to be the negative reciprocal of this. So here the gradient is going to be minus 3 over 4. So M equals minus 3 over 4. So from this, what we can then do is we know that the coordinate there, so using 3, 4 and the gradient, I'm going to use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Alternatively, you could use y equals mx plus c, in which substituting numbers in, I get y minus y1, which is 4, equals minus 3 over 4x minus 3. Then expanding, moving things around, I get 4y minus 16 equals minus 3x plus 9. So I get an equation of 4y plus 3x equals 16 plus 9, which is 25. So that is the equation of the line of this. And so all that's left for me then to do is use simultaneous equations to work this out. So then from this, so if I then got, well, if I substitute y equals minus 5 into this equation here, then let me just make that a little bit clearer. Stick a plus there. And so substituting minus 5 into that, I end up with minus 20 plus 3x equals 25. So then 3x equals 45. So x has got a coordinate of 15. So then here I've now got my coordinates of P, which is at 15 minus 5. So scrolling down, I should have a coordinate of 15 minus 5. And there we go.